All right.
The stream is live.
The stream is live. We're live. Okay, I'm going to go over to Facebook so you girls can chat for a sec, and then I will get us streaming over on Biblical Fiction Aficionados.
Okay.
So, Susan, are you planning to go to ACFW again this year?
Not this year. I hope next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm not going either, even though I told myself 2 years ago when they were saying it's going to be in New Orleans. I'm like, I've never been there. I might like to go,
Yeah.
This year kind of came around and there just was too many other things. We had a big vacation and I'm like, no, I don't think I will. So
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of knew that I wasn't in a place this year to do it, and then I'm hoping to go next year, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's a big commitment.
It is, and to figure out the time and the money, and if I'm not trying to find an agent, which I was last time. So if I'm not trying to find an agent, it doesn't seem quite as
urgent
to go.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. It's Carol Awards. That's ACFW, isn't it?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, just the name went out of my head.
Well, it's 2 C's, so that really messes me up. I always say Christie Awards for ACFW, and yet in the back of my head, I go, that's not right. So Carol Awards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you've written a second book, is that right?
I've written a second book, and I'm just finishing up the third. I've got like 2 more chapters to write. I've edited the first part, but hadn't written the ending. So I'll finish it all this week, the final chapters, and send it off to Marilee. So
wow.
That will be nice.
All right. Okay. Victory. We are live.
Okay, hooray.
Yay. All right, technical difficulties. We had that. If you're watching here at Biblical Fiction Aficionados, thank you for your patience. We will get this. It was, technology is always going to get the best of us, I fear. But we are here now. Welcome to Biblical Fiction Aficionados. I'm Naomi Craig. Joining me today, I've got Dana McNeely and Susan Macias. No, Demi, it is not you. That was on me. Sorry, everybody. You're the tech one. I'm glad you're here. No, that was me. Yeah. So thank you, Michelle. 200. Yeah. So we're excited to have this live here today to talk about finding home. We've got a great program scheduled. I'm going to give you a heads up after we.
There's always something fun.
Yes. After we do our question and answer time and get to know Susan and finding home, we are going to, you can see my closet there. Here we go. Messy closet that is supposed to be my recording, but I haven't recorded in a while. But yeah, so what we're going to do is I'm going to say it a couple of times. Go ahead and grab 20 small items like coins or buttons or pens. We will be using that for a game later on, and we're going to try to get you all involved with that. So yeah, a couple of things about how today's going to go. We're going to have this get to know Susan and her book, and we're going to have a game and a reading. So we're really excited about that. And Susan has offered to give away 4 copies of Finding Home. Thank you. One of them will be paperback for U.S. audience addresses, and then the others are ebook, and those can be anywhere, right? Is that correct, Susan?
Yes.
Anywhere.
Just do any email address. That's how they would get it. It's through BookFunnel.
Yep. So, and then with BookFunnel, you can either read on their app or send it over to your Kindle or whatever your reading app is. So
yes,
we've got lots of fun on that. The comments will be open through Friday evening. That way you can make sure you're entered into the drawing for these prizes. And it's a great book. So you definitely want to be commenting. That will be every comment that you make will be another point towards that random draw for the 4 books. So We're excited about that. Are there any other housekeeping things that either of you ladies could think of? All right. Good deal. Feel free to comment in, ask your own questions in the comments, and we will push those across on the screen. And we're looking forward to today. So let's get started. Let's get started right away. Dana, would you tell us a little bit about read the book blurb for us?
Oh, read the book blurb. I'm sorry, Naomi, I don't have the book blurb, but I will talk a little bit about the book.
I think I put it on our talking points.
I don't know. I read the talking points and it mostly talked about the game. But I will tell you that I have been reading Susan's book and I am in love with it. I can't put it down. And I'll tell you why. It's not just the story. It's the setting, which she brings into every scene of the story. She puts you right there. It's the characters. Every time she switches into a point of view, you are right there in that character. You feel all their emotions. You understand their motivations, and you are that character for that moment. And the action is moving at a very fast pace. It's just amazing. I love how it starts in the current day, not our current day, but the current day of the character. And then it goes into a past. And there's such a contrast between those two time periods. And you just feel all this angst. So I just want to say it's a wonderful book. It's enthralling. It's gripping. You're going to love it. Don't miss it.
Yeah, it's Finding Home is the parable of the prodigal son in an actual expounded story. It's a story to begin with, so I don't know. We're like in fan fiction world here. I don't know how you'd classify that, but yeah, it's great. And if you've read the Bible, I'm sure you know the story of the prodigal son. I think that's probably one of the most common ones. So you start right out when the prodigal son is like low, and yeah, so it's fantastic. I've enjoyed getting to read it too, and I'm anxious to finish as well. So Rebecca says it was such an impactful book. In that respect, my pastor read it and cried. Michelle says, I love being that character at that moment, and is very impressed by your pastor, Rebecca. That's amazing. Yeah. What a testament there. Good. So yeah, so this is a retelling of the prodigal son. And we see the two brothers. We see Seth, who is the one who stayed home, and Judah is the one who goes out. And Susan, this is your first fiction too, right? This is your you've done other books, but this is your first fiction. Is that correct?
It is. I've always wanted to write. Like when I think back to being young, and I knew I wanted to write, and I wasn't really sure what that meant. But this idea came way before I wrote it, and we may get around to that story. But what came first for me as a mom, I was a homeschooling mom, military wife. We moved around. We had a big family, and writing felt like there was no space. And so when blogging came around in the 90s, that was how I was able to jump in and start writing on a regular basis. And then we had a big, difficult thing come through our life, and God taught me all about prayer. And so my first book ended up being Unceasing, which is a book on praying for your kids, particularly your older kids. And God just changed my heart, changed my life, and I needed to share that. That's kind of how I feel about it. Every time God does something with me, I think, I want to write about that. So that was kind of what happened there, and some other things happened. But this book was the book of my heart that I'd carried. I had the inspiration 30 years before it was published. Wow. So I carried it with me a long time. And as I wrote, I realized, wow, fiction is a whole different bag. So I've done a lot of studying on fiction and what to do. I've written, rewritten, and rewritten the book. And so it it has a lot of my heart into it. So to hear anything about, oh, I loved the characters, like Dana was saying, that just like, oh, praise God, because it's been a labor of love, but it's been labor. It's like having children. It's very much like having children.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the book blurb here, so I'll go ahead and read that. What if achieving your dream means destroying your family and obtaining your desire means losing who you love? In first century Galilee, two Jewish brothers face this dilemma. Seth pursues a rigid and divisive rabbi who teaches strict adherence to the law. Judah plots an escape from traditions that constrict him, and they both run from their father, but in the opposite directions. As Judah strives to make his dreams a reality, he makes a shocking request that tears his family apart and divides their community. Will his newfound wealth bring him success and disaster? And I think it's interesting because you don't just have him over into the next. I don't know why I thought this, but like when Jesus is telling this story, I figured, oh yeah, I didn't think geographically. I didn't think anywhere besides just over the next, in the next community, maybe. I don't know. I didn't think about it. But you have them all the way out in Ephesus, even.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of choose anywhere, but it says he goes to a far country. And I was able to visit Ephesus at one point. And so I felt like I could build out that city with a little bit of understanding more than some other place I would just have to research on the web. So that's why I chose Ephesus.
Cool. It's a great idea.
And I wanted him completely out of any Jewish community so that he's leaving how he has been raised completely. And so it needed to be outside of Israel.
Right. Yeah. It just brings a whole new perspective to how far he traveled, I think, because I'm sure, like I said, everyone's heard the story of the prodigal son, but that's one of the things that I didn't expect with biblical fiction. Yeah, it makes the characters become alive, but it also makes the geography come alive too. So that's something pretty cool that I think having it all the way in Ephesus makes it like,
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
So your trip to Ephesus was a big piece of research for you. And biblical writers all kind of like to share research with each other because, biblical research is so different than just plain historical or other genres. So did you have a favorite resource from the book other than your trip to Ephesus? And what was exciting about that?
This story got inspired. I felt like I need to kind of tell a little backstory.
Sure.
The story got inspired by a teacher who did a lot, he's passed away, but who did a lot of Jewish roots of the Christian faith. So you could understand the scripture based upon the culture that it was set in. And so he had a list of researchers and writers that I use their books. There's a man named Brad Young who's written a bunch of books on the parables. That was amazing. I live in San Antonio, Texas. A few hours to the east is Houston, Texas. And if anyone is ever in Houston, Texas, there is a place called the Lanier Theological Library. And it was built by a man who won many commas in how much money he won as a private litigation lawyer. But he's a believer. And he built this library that looks like modeled after a 15th century monastery. And it is filled with biblical books. And so if there was any point in time where I was going anywhere near Houston, Texas, I would figure out how to stay a day or two and go to the library. And I found amazing resources there that, a few things I'd go, wow, that's so good. I'm going to buy that. There were a few books that I could find that were affordable online. But most of it, I just did the research there. And that was amazing because you get on the internet and you just don't know I mean, is this someone's opinion? Is this real? Is this, you have to really be careful with what you're reading to take it as fact. And so that was a great resource. And I realize that's only in Houston, Texas. So I wish it was in San Antonio, but it's not.
Tell me the name of it again.
Lanier, Lanier, and that is after the man who built it, Lanier Theological Library. And I do think they have some online resources as well, but you have to walk in, you have to register, but the whole place is free. You can use it as long as you want in the hours that they're open. And you feel like you're sitting in a monastery. So for those of us that like that just I learn better in a monastery, apparently. So
focus.
I love it. It sounds amazing.
Okay, let me just tell you real quick, Naomi, it's Lanier, Lanier, just for somebody to look it up if they want to look it up.
Thank you.
But I'm also just, love an excuse to buy another book. So I did research a lot and would collect a few books.
What is your go-to at home, that your in-home library?
As far as a book, I love Erdheim. He has Alfred Erdheim has the old books that he wrote a long time ago, but I thought they were really good. I had one called, and I can't remember the author, it's Life and Times of Jesus. And it was an older book. It was a used volume and it was pretty thick, but it had a lot of very practical things that I could look up. And then there was one, I should have brought this in here. I'll stick it in the comments. I'll stick a couple of titles in the comments that were my favorite, because I'm over 60 and I've had 7 children. So there's only so many brain cells that still connect on the memory level. But I know which ones, and I know what the covers look like. So I can put them in here really quick afterwards.
Yeah, sounds good. So we see the characters of Seth, who's the prodigal, and Seth is the
older brother.
The older brother. Judah's the prodigal, and we see the perspective of Miriam and Eli too. Which character did you relate to the most?
Probably Miriam, because she is a woman, and I put her in there. There was a couple of reasons. I wanted Seth and Judah's perspective, but since the father is a reflection of God, I didn't want to speak from that voice, and I thought, we need a female in here, so that's why I did. Miriam is a servant in the household, has acted like a mother with the boys, whose mother has passed away. That's part of the story, and so. I really liked her. I sort of modeled her a little bit after my grandmother. But I love the tough, no nonsense nature in her. And that's kind of how I mothered. And so I just liked, I had fun getting into her character. It's not me at all, but it was fun to give her that voice.
Yeah. I love it. And I think because she is looking at it as the surrogate mom. So I think this book's going to relate to those who have wandered from the faith, those who are a little bit more Pharisaical by nature, and the parent who's going through that actively or in the past, where their child has stepped away. I think you're going to get a lot of people really connecting with this.
I've had a couple of moms of prodigals who have talked about what this has done for their own heart, of how they want to respond to their child, how they want to walk through this long, dark, hard valley. But kind of realizing that the Lord has been walking through that long, hard, dark valley with all of his children. As he's continually, the thing I loved about this book and researching it and dreaming of writing it for so long, I saw this story all through scripture. It's everywhere. Right. I read Jeremiah and Isaiah, and you just hear God through the prophets calling his people to himself. He wants to have relationship, and they just refuse. And so it was fun to see how how cover to cover this story shows up. And then how Jesus told such a succinct, perfect story arc story of this. It's really amazing. When I sat down to first outline the story, I realized, wow, basically every story point is in here. Obviously, we're going to flesh it out a lot, but I already had the outline because of how perfectly it's told.
Yeah.
Right. That's the cool thing about biblical fiction, really. That there's that story there.
Mm-hmm.
I think, too, with Miriam, she's a woman of a certain age. And I think as I get older, I just find that the older characters are the most interesting. And I think she's a stellar character. And there's such a poignant moment one time when one of the sons treats her as a servant rather than she's treating him as a son, and he treats her as a servant. And it's just such a poignant moment. Okay, you love my t-shirt. I have to say something. It does not just say God. It says God is good.
All the time.
I was so afraid somebody was going to be offended at my shirt. I'm glad you like it, Michelle.
So good.
Michelle says awesome to that. Yeah, we're all the things that you think about when
I didn't think about it until I saw it on the screen. I'm like, uh-oh, that's not right.
So a really cool thing that I saw is just as Judah, the prodigal, is on his way out, the neighbor comes in and has found the lost sheep, which if you've read The Prodigal Son, you know that is a parable right next to it. And then there's the lost coin too. Do you have any other Easter eggs, if you will, of other parables that Jesus told?
There's quite a few parables in there, and that I don't know that I really had anticipated, but it worked so well that I included several parables so that it's like puts them in the middle of people's lives. So they're building a tower and it's not being finished and everybody's fussing at them and so making fun of them. So the parable of the tower is in there. The parable of the banquet where the master goes out and asks people to come and they refuse. And so then he ends up bringing in just people off the street. That is in there as well. And I did that very purposefully because I wanted to be able to talk about one of the things that happened was I was learning about some of this background on what all the Middle Eastern ideas around what was happening. We read it with Western eyes. And so we read it differently. We're used to independence. We're used to kids doing what they want and not really honoring their parents. And so it was a huge deal that the son would not go into the banquet that the father was throwing. And when the prodigal comes back, and I didn't want to have to tell all that at the very, very end. So this banquet ends up really picturing well the ostracization. That did not come out right. Okay, he was ostracized.
Okay, we're writers. It doesn't mean we can speak well. Okay,
that's right. I can spell it, but I don't know how to say that. So the father is ostracized because he doesn't behave like everybody expects him to behave, and it was a big deal. All the things the father does are shocking, and we don't understand the shock because in Western eyes it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. But there's point after point after point after point in the story where the father does opposite of what is expected. And so I wanted to be able to bring those things out. So I have quite a few parables in there. And that's, and we'll get to, what I'm writing next then is using a few more parables and putting those together to continue the story.
Cool.
Do you want me to
No, I was just
I have a little question. I think
Yeah.
just a lot of people like to know these two things, and you choose either one. What does your writing day look like, and how long does the book take? Did the book take to write? Pick
Okay.
whatever.
Well,
On both.
yeah, okay. So my writing, I do best in the morning. I do best. My writing brain works better in the morning, and there are fewer details that are jumping in the way of what I intend to do later. So even after my children have moved out, that is still true. I don't know quite why, but so I get up in the morning. I have my quiet time first, and then I get more coffee and I write. And I try to write on the novel, on what that thing that I'm writing, that story. And I have, of course, like most writers, have a few writing books, a few things that I'm writing at the same time. But I try to work on the novel first, and then get up, move around a little bit, and then go back and work some more, do some more household or chores or grandkids or whatever, and then in the afternoon do more of what would be considered business. I've really pulled back from social media because I just felt like it was draining my life away. And something about, I don't know. See, I really just kind of decided that I'm putting so much time and effort into putting something up on Instagram, and then it is gone. It's a vapor. And yet things that I wrote on my blog 6 years ago, and I haven't written on my blog in a year and a half, mainly because I was doing other things.
Mm-hmm.
People are still reading those and signing up for and I'm like, why am I writing anything on Instagram? So I'm going back to blogging this year, and so my writing day looks like, what I do is try to get my writing, my book done first, because then whatever is the other thing I work on, whether it's in the morning or in the afternoon, I end up spending a lot of time on one thing. I don't like to move through 6 things in the same day. I don't really do that as well as concentrating. So today I was listening to files on the audiobook of this that's coming out this fall. Mm-hmm. And so that's all I did this afternoon, because it's better for me to get it done in one chunk than to try to come back to it 5 times in the same week, but for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I don't know. That didn't work for me as well.
Michelle wondered what happened to you on Instagram.
Oh, really?
Rebecca can hardly wait, and Michelle says so. It's a series, so that leads into what other novels you have planned for us.
So the next book the main parable, there's several parables that are involved, but the main parable is the Good Samaritan. But the person who's beat up and left on the side of the road is Seth. Oh. And so he will get to be confronted with all of his assumptions about what is clean and unclean, and the person who would save him and the people who would not save him and touch him. And it's, as of now, working title is Loving Anyway, because it's concentrating on how does Judah love Seth? This is like 2 years after the end of the first book. How does Abba's calling Judah out to love Seth anyway? How are you going through those things? And then Seth is going to learn what it means to really love. So
obviously by the end, spoiler alert, Seth does not change his ways.
Well, I was true to the parable.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what? Because his favorite rabbi is probably going to be in on that, isn't he?
Maybe.
That's going to give him a real hard time there.
He's going to have to make choices.
Yeah. Ooh. That adds some good drama there. I love it. Good deal. So Rebecca's ready to read it already. Michelle thinks it's never read a book on Seth and thinks my banter is funny.
So, and I have more ideas than I have time, But I'm hoping after, like maybe while this next novel is with the editor, that I will write a Bible study on that idea of the father who calls us home. That will be based on all the scripture that's in the book, in the novel.
Yeah, I wonder, have you looked into YouVersion where they've got those like 30-day plan type things? That would be cool too. I've seen that.
I have not looked into it. I wasn't really sure what the process was.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I know Misu Andrews has done some companion Bible studies on YouVersion with her books out. And Rebecca says, and don't we all have to make those choices? And Demi says, love the idea of a book on a good Samaritan parable. And Michelle says, amen. It's hard to make that choice, because I think I identify more with having to do things the right way all the right time, working on that. So hopefully it's softened, but I can relate to that side of it. So sounds like it's going to be another good one.
Well, I think it should. I mean, don't we all at the end of that parable feel for the good son? He made that comment and I'm like, oh yeah, poor guy.
Yeah, you feel sorry for him.
Yeah. Did the right thing, didn't do him any good.
Yeah.
I have a very serious question. So when the prodigal son comes home, who do you think was the most disappointed to see him?
Oh, well, I think Seth. It doesn't seem like, and if once you write fiction, you realize that these characters are their own little humans, and so I feel Miriam didn't seem to me to be disappointed as I wrote her response. That it is such a everybody else, while there's people around that are not sure about accepting him back, and that will come out in that second book as well. Everyone's glad for Ezra to have that joy of the return. So if they're not happy to see Judah, they're at least happy for Ezra.
Sure.
But Seth can't be happy for his father because he's too mad at what is wrong to rejoice for what is right.
I was going to say, I think the fattened calf is probably the most.
But his days were numbered as it was, because the only reason he got to get fat was to get eaten. So
that's pretty funny, Naomi.
So what do you find as a writer is like the most challenging thing for you?
The continuity, having enough without too much. I easily overwrite. Like I write, we all discover what works for us. And I found, I love Scrivener and I use it, but I don't compose in Scrivener because I feel a sense of more, gravitas when I'm in Scrivener. So I do it in Google Drive, and I have all my files in Google Drive. And there's something about that just plain white screen. I can delete the whole thing if I want. And somehow that gave me more freedom. So I do a lot of writing and then edit, and then eventually put things into Scrivener for more editing and more story forming. And the first time I got all my files and I figured out where to see how many words, because, was I even close to having 100,000 words? And I had 140,000 words. And it's like, I got to cut a third of this book. What in the world have I done?
Yeah.
So, a lot of it was that first time novelist. And there were a lot of things that where I thought I was telling and not showing, but I was showing and not telling. But then I would get comments, there's too much telling and not enough showing. And I'm like, I worked so hard at that. But I don't think I learned so much from having an excellent editor who I could then until I actually saw it and was like, okay, wait. So this part I did okay. This part's a mess, and I need to redo that altogether. So for me, it's knowing what to tell and what to not tell. And I don't mean like that, the showing telling part, but even the story parts, like what's overtelling, what's play by play, what's enough information, what's too many details. Those questions are very hard for me. And then I had decided, and Dana alluded to that, this isn't a straight timeline. When I first wrote the book, it was a straight timeline. But I was like, everybody knows the story of the prodigal son. Like, you don't even have to be a Bible reader to know the story of the prodigal son. So everybody knows what's going to happen next. And that was why I altered with the timeline and did it kind of back and forth some, so that it would at least create, you still know what's going to happen because that's the story you're telling, but it didn't make it quite so obvious what would be the next chapter. But doing that thing, oh, that was hard. Mapping that out, and I had many big whiteboards and sticky notes and moving in Scrivener and moving again. And so that was hard.
Yeah. Oh, well done. You did it. You did well. Sorry, Dana, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I just said, yep. It is really good to have a good editor, good critique partners will find it sometimes. And you have to keep track of your word count. Mm-hmm. But getting the things in the correct order is a challenge, as is just understanding the chronological timeline in the Bible. Sometimes that can trip you up. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot to struggle with, and when you get it, it's just really a great moment. So good.
Well, and I think that there's such a responsibility in saying, I'm taking a biblical story and I'm going to flesh it out. So of course you're adding to what the Bible has, because, otherwise you could just reprint what was in the Bible. Yeah. You're trying to bring flesh and blood, and it helps us to understand these are real people in the Bible. They're not these weird saints or, they were normal people. And these things happened. And this is God's story in normal people's lives. So I felt such a responsibility to not go outside the bounds of Scripture as I'm telling more than Scripture.
Right. I know, that's the trick. And you get criticized for just writing biblical fiction sometimes by some people. And you try and explain it to them. I don't know. To me, I've said a couple times, listen to your pastor when he stands in the pulpit. Is he adding to the Bible, or is he preaching a sermon? I'm doing something in a different format, a different art form. I'm not adding to the Bible. So,
yeah, just adding culture. And why was this person making this choice that's documented in Scripture? And what led them to this? And what did they do after? I think that's. I mean, you don't have to convince me, I guess.
Yeah. We can all agree.
We're preaching to the choir here.
Yeah. All right. So I'd love to, if you have comments, feel free to, or questions that you'd like to know about Finding Home, feel free to put those in. We're going to move on to our game now. So for those who are at home, because I love that explanation, Dana. I have a hard time fielding criticism. Yeah, it's tricky because I've read your book, one of your books, and it's excellent. You've done a very good job keeping to the Scripture and making it, just the culture around it. So,
you know what? My husband was just telling me a story about George Whitefield, and his preaching was the Great Awakening. It's what God used to fuel the Great Awakening in the United States. And he had so much criticism from so many people. And there's some things he wrote about the hardest part of his ministry was dealing with criticism from other Christians.
Right.
And I just think we have to do what God tells us to do.
Yeah.
And put it out there. And if they criticize, it is not for them. And they can do something else. Thank you. No one is forcing you to read this book. Right. And so your book is who God has it for. And so we just it takes a lot to I hate criticism. I hate it. I have enough critical voices in my head. I don't need other people criticizing me too.
Right.
I just think that we have to do what God tells us and expect there to be criticism, because there just will be.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
Michelle says, biblical fiction helps me better understand difficult parts of the Bible. Amen, girl. Preach it. For sure. Okay. So if you are watching our BFA Live with Susan Macias, we're going to play a game. And so if you have 10 small items, pennies or paper clips or pens or buttons, I'm sorry, 20. I need you to bring 20. So you can go ahead and go get those now. But it's what we're doing is we're going to play I've Never. So right now, Rebecca says, it really upsets me when people know I won't read Christian fiction because it's wrong. God has always spoken to me through fiction. Yes, I've felt like I don't read self-help or Christian living books as well, but God will speak to me through fiction, and I'll see parallels in myself in the story and stuff. Yeah, I totally agree with that. So we're going to play a game of I've Never. Right now I see Rebecca, Michelle, and Demi at home. So I'm going to write those ladies down. So we're going to take turns saying something that I've never done. And if you have done it, then what we're going to do is you're dividing your coins into 2 piles. You'll have 10 of your own, and then you're going to have 10 in a discard pile. So what's going to happen is the illustration I gave earlier, like Dana could say, I've never been to Mongolia. And anybody who has been to Mongolia would have to surrender one of your coins. And then Dana would take from her discard pile and add that number into her pile. So Dana says, I've never been to Mongolia. I would have to take out one of my coins and put it in my discard pile, and then Dana's going to add one to hers because I have been to Mongolia. Is that making sense so far, Rebecca, Michelle, and Demi? I played this with youth group. I've seen it done can be done on Facebook. So we want to make sure it's super clear for you on that. Does that look good, Rebecca, Michelle, Demi? I'm just gonna go with yes on that. If you don't have any questions, I've got you ladies written down.
Okay, wait. Let's just run it by me one more time. Okay. So here I am with my coin, and I say, and it came from my regular pile, right? Not my discard pile. This coin came from my good pile, not my discard pile. Okay. So I say, I have never been to Mongolia. And then you say, I have. So what do I do with this?
Okay, leave that in your regular pile. Okay, so you've just said, so Demi's going to be eating her candy before they make it to the discard.
If I had candy, I would never get through this game.
Girl, it's whoever has the most at the end wins. So at your own risk, go for it. So you would say, this is your turn, Dana. So you wouldn't have to move a coin from your pile at all. Okay. You say, I've never been to Mongolia.
I've never been to Mongolia.
And so then I say, well, I have. So I'm taking one of my coins out and putting it in my discard. So now go ahead and grab one from your discard, Dana, and put it into your regular. Pretend I'm giving it to you.
Oh, okay.
Virtually giving you my coin.
Okay, so I haven't been to Mongolia either. So would I put one from my discard to my regular?
No.
It's only between 2 people?
It's whoever. So Dana is the judge of this round. So when Dana says, I've never been to Mongolia, anybody who has been to Mongolia has to virtually give her a candy.
Got it.
Or a coin or whatever you got.
Okay. That was just a test question. So I'm putting it back. I now have 10 in each pile again.
Okay. All right. So do you want me to start so we can get rolling on this?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I have never had grandkids. So if you have had a grandkid, you have to virtually give me one from your pile and tell me.
I give you one. I only have to give one. I have 12 grandkids, but I only have to give you one.
Yeah, only one. All right,
Here's
so I
one,
got
baby.
one virtually from Susan that I'm moving from my discard into my regular.
And I move one from my regular to my discard.
Yes, ma'am. And
Because I have grandchildren.
yes, so I get one virtually from Dana. Rebecca, Demi, and Michelle, do you have grandkids? Rebecca has one, has grandkids. And so Demi and Rebecca both virtually give me one. So I'm taking two more from my discard pile and putting it into my account. And Demi and Rebecca, you have to pull one out of your regular account and put it in your discard pile. Okay? So now I have like 14. And some of you should have 9. No grandkids for Michelle. Okay, so you're fine, Michelle. You virtually and real keep all of your coins for right now. Okay? All right, so let's go on to Dana. What's your I've never?
I have never played. I have never.
No fair. All right, so I'm taking one virtually for me and giving it to Dana. So I'm taking it out of my pile. And Dana, you're grabbing one from your discard and putting it back into your pile.
Okay.
Anybody else ever?
I've never played either, so I just stay even.
Stay even. Yep. All right. Demi, Michelle, or Rebecca, have you ever played? Oh, I could be pointing these out too. Okay. Michelle has to give you one virtually because she has played. Rebecca has played. So Rebecca, you have to give one virtually to Dana. And a note for
Give it
Dana.
up, Rebecca.
All right. So then you should have 3 extras in your, no, 1, 2, yeah, 3 of us. 3 extras in your pile, Dana.
And I do.
Okay.
We're balancing. Okay.
All right. All right, Susan, tell us your first one.
I have never bungee jumped off a bridge.
Good. I have never too.
If we have played, yes. If you have played Never Have I Ever or I've never, then you have to virtually give Dana one. I have nothing. I've never bungee jumped either. Anybody bungee jumped here off a bridge? Or bungee jumped in general? We'll allow that. All right.
Biblical fiction readers are not bungee jumpers.
Apparently, we're not bungee jumpers. No bungee jumping for Demi.
We're all wise women.
Yes, we are.
All right. Nope for Rebecca. So I'm sorry, nothing moves for you, Susan. All right. Rebecca, can you think of something that you have never done? And type that into the comments for us. Demi and Michelle, be thinking about yours because I'm coming to you next. Rebecca has never eaten sushi. So if you have eaten sushi, you owe Rebecca a virtual point.
And I have to take it out of my regular stuff and put it in my discard. Okay.
Yes. I'm giving you one, Rebecca.
I'm giving you an orange one, Rebecca. One of my pretty ones.
I've had like the fake crab stuff. I'm going to give you one for that.
I was going to say, I've only eaten like the supermarket brand of sushi, but it is sushi. It's American sushi. They call it sushi.
California roll.
Okay, so I'm taking one of mine out because I've had the California rolls. You've got, Rebecca, you should add for sure 3 for me and Susan and Dana and our fake sushis. But don't take, Demi is allergic, so she's going to stick with her Hershey Kisses. How about you, Michelle? Have you ever had sushi? All right, so you should have take 3, Rebecca, from your discard pile. Oh, yes, Michelle has had sushi as well. So take 4 from your discard pile, Rebecca, and put it into your regular pile. And then all of us who have had one, we take one out of our regular pile and put it in our discard. All right. Next up, Michelle, do you have a I've never for us? Yes. Oh, I can put that up there. Oh, it is up there. All right. I have never been to Alaska. Okay. So here's one virtually from my pile to you, Michelle.
One from me. I just went this last July.
And one from Susan as well. Rebecca says me either, so you're good. And Demi has never been there. So you should add 3 from your discard pile to your regular pile, Michelle. Nice one. All right, Demi, you're up. What do you got for us?
Oh, there we go. I have never been on water skis or jet skis.
All right. Okay, so Susan has. So she's
I'm gonna run out of coins pretty quick. I'd just like to say that.
I have too. I've
Rebecca
been on
says
water
no.
skis. Yeah.
Michelle says no. I think I did. My father-in-law has a boat, and I think many, many years ago I tried skiing. So I'm going to virtually give you one. So you should have 3 virtual from your discard to your regular pile there, Demi. Okay, back to me. Let's see. I'm going to come up with a good one. Let's do one more round, and then we'll get into our reading of Finding Home. So let me see here. Let's make it a good one. I have never lived in more than one state.
Wow.
I've traveled a lot, but my home has always been in Arizona. So I've never lived in more than one state. So I get one from Susan and Dana.
Yeah.
And Michelle, you've lived in more than one state? Okay. So I get one from Michelle and one from Demi. And one from Rebecca. I've lived in Idaho and Oregon. All right. Good deal. Okay. So next up is Dana. What's your best one? Because I think this will be your last round.
Okay. I have never read King Lear. King Lear, Shakespeare's King Lear.
You get one from me. I had to read it. It was in school.
Okay. Who else read it?
Demi says neither have I. Michelle says nope. I don't remember. What's the plot behind it, Susan? Because
I mean, we're talking 38 years ago, but it's sad. It's not a comedy. King Lear, somebody dies. King Lear dies. I don't know.
Daughters.
Yeah, it's sad.
It's somebody dies. There's
I think more than one person dies, but I don't remember exactly who.
That's cute. I just heard daughters.
A long time ago. So I'm going to give you, in college, I'm going to give you one because to cover my basis, Dana.
Okay. All right.
So I don't know. It's been a while.
You don't remember it either.
I don't remember what it was about. So, all right, Susan, what's your best one?
I have never spoken a second language. Not for lack of trying, but I am an English only girl.
Like, did you take Spanish in high school? Do you want some of that? Or
I mean, I took Latin in high school, which was not a speaking language. I dropped Spanish in college because it would have, seriously tanked my grade point average. And I lived in Germany And besides, I mean, when I say speak another language, I mean like I can't speak another language.
Okay.
I can order a taco and I could say Auf Wiedersehen when we lived in Germany, but I ran out really fast other than that.
Okay, fair. So, Rebecca, I think your I haven't either was for this one.
I think I'll give you one, even though I don't speak a lot of anything, but I have some smatterings and I can understand more. So
I wish I could, but sadly, no.
Wow.
Yes.
I just knew everybody was smarter than me and would all have speaks.
I'll give you one for my 2 years of required Spanish, but I don't.
There you go.
I can't.
Okay.
It's probably more of a pity one because I.
I think I did it wrong and gave myself one. I don't know. I'm taking one away, right?
If you,
If
take one away from your actual pile.
Okay, there we go.
All right.
I just win no matter what.
Which means you have lots of experience. All right, Rebecca, with your last one more I've never from you. Michelle and Demi, be thinking about yours. Make it a good one. It's our last round. If you are watching this on the replay, you're welcome to chime in or give us some of your I've never. It won't. So if one of you three, whoever's the highest, is going to be an automatic winner of one of the prizes. So if you're watching in the replay, please comment because you will be entered for the other 3 prizes. But we will be giving the winner, one of you 3 ladies, is going to get a prize there. Okay, Rebecca's I have never played the piano. Michelle has. So Michelle, you owe Rebecca a virtual point.
I have, so I'm giving her a virtual point.
Take one from me, Rebecca. I played piano, but flute was my chosen instrument from Demi. And then I took a couple of years of piano. Unfortunately, not very long, but you get one virtual one from me as well.
Not me.
Oh, something you haven't done.
I played clarinet. Not very well, but middle school. Middle school, I played clarinet. Oh, I played violin in the 3rd grade. That sounded worse than the clarinet in 7th grade.
That's funny. So, Rebecca, you should be adding on one from Michelle, one from Demi, one from Dana, and one from me. You're adding on 4 to your pile. And then let's do, Michelle, your last I've never. So if you are watching this in the replay, the comments will be open until Friday of the 29th. No, I guess that's the 30th. The 30th of August. Be sure to comment because Susan does have lots of giveaways that she's willing to share with us. So there's 4 total giveaways. You get comment. The more you comment, the more you get considered in that random draw for that. All right. Michelle says she has never eaten an empanada, which would be like a pastry covered, like, because every culture has one of those. Like, are you counting strictly empanadas, or are you thinking of just?
I mean, it's an empanada. If somebody, it has to at least be a Spanish culture. Like I've eaten Puerto Rican ones and I've eaten Mexican ones.
Okay,
but they're still empanadas.
I think that's fair.
So you get my point.
You get one for Susan. Demi gets nothing, and
if I have eaten it, I give her one, right?
Yes.
I'm giving you one because
Rebecca probably makes empanadas, so she you get one from me. I'm sure I've had a Hispanic culture meat pie.
Her husband is Hispanic. He probably makes really good ones. I've been in a restaurant. They were just kind of meh, but I bet your husband makes great ones.
Sometimes, yeah. So you get, Michelle, you get one from Rebecca, one from me, one from Dana, and then Susan, did you say that? So 4. You get 4, Michelle, from your discard pile. And Demi, what you got for your last I've never? I have never had a sibling. Okay.
Whoa.
Nice one.
Okay, she's gonna get a whole bunch of points. I have 3, 4.
Michelle has 3. Susan has 1. Okay, I have 1. So you've got 1 from me, Dana, Susan, Michelle. And Rebecca. I think you got everybody on that one. Nice job.
That's a good one.
That was a good one. So you get 5 virtual points there, Demi, or pretend like we're giving you more Hershey Kisses. All right, ladies, let's count up our points, and then whichever of you 3 ladies, Demi, Michelle, and Rebecca, Demi says it finally, it pays to be an only child. All right, so go ahead and count your remaining points and let us know where you're at. 1, 2. I have 9, so I didn't do too badly on that.
I only have 4, and I don't want to win my own book, so it's fine.
Yeah, I think we're disqualified, but I got 7. It's a fun game. It's really fun. But I can't teach it to anybody. I don't understand the rules yet.
Did you say you have 7 left?
Yeah.
Nice. Michelle has 12. Rebecca, you're going to be counting your actual pile, what we've been giving you virtually. And Demi also has 12. Ooh, we have a potential tiebreaker here. Oh, Rebecca has 13. Well done. I'm going to write those down on my things, and we will be in touch about that. So 12, 13, and 12. Awesome. Good deal. Well, thank you guys so much for playing. And then we'll do a brief reading from Finding Home now, and then we'll call it a night, and you guys can get about your evenings. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. So we'll have Susan read from a bit from Finding Home for us.
Okay.
Yeah, story time.
This is in chapter 5, and I decided to do the one that you talked about, Dana. So I'm going to read that scene, and if possible, the one after, we'll see, but depends on time. So this is Miriam, who is a servant in the home. She is a surrogate parent. And yeah, if you have any questions, put it, if it doesn't make sense because it's sort of taken out of whatever, then put it in the comments. I'll answer the questions. Rufus's bark breaks the afternoon quiet. Tail beating, the red beast scampers right under my feet, nearly tripping me. A moment later, I hear wooden wheels rumbling. Our men are back. Thank you, Rufus. You're occasionally useful. How about you guard the sheep with the same enthusiasm? I cup my hands around my mouth. The master's home. All around the compound, heads jerk up. Then the roofer's hammering accelerates, and next to the loom, the raisins are finally stored away. I rush into the kitchen. Where's Tova? I hope the quiet mouse prepared the men's basin for washing. Wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to remind everyone what to do? Oh, Adonais, please help her get busy. On a wooden platter, I stack fresh flatbread next to some olives. In a bowl of olive oil, I mix in the dill and add a pinch of salt. After I fill a pitcher more than halfway with water, I add wine, and in an earthen jug of fresh water, I grate some ginger. I hope those boys didn't vex their father too much. Why can't they see how lucky they are and try to be more like him? Instead, Seth follows the strictest of Pharisees, and Judah acts almost like a Gentile. Loading as much as I can on a tray, I pause. Adonai, in my opinion, Judah needs a kick in the backside and Seth needs a slap upside the head, because if they keep running in opposite directions, they will tear this family apart. Still deep in thought, I deposit the food on the arbor table, next to which Tova stands ready with pitcher, bowl, and towel. I nod. Good. As our wagon rumbles into the courtyard, I force a smile. Welcome home. Ezra joins us. You're an oasis in a dry and weary land, Miriam. Though there's dark circles under his eyes, his voice sounds jovial. The older I get, the more my bones complain. And here's Tova with cleansing water. I'm blessed, thank you. While Tova pours water over Ezra's hands and feet, Seth appears, tossing his headscarf onto a stool. I'll update the ledgers before I go to Uncle Daniel for prayers. Will you join me? I suppress a desire to pinch him. Seth can say the right words, yet convey judgment with his tone better than anyone I know. Tova moves to wash his feet, and he barely looks at her. Ezra tears off a piece of bread. Would you like me to join you, Seth? Why wouldn't you come? What's more important than your prayers? My jaw clamps tight. It's not my place anymore to correct Seth, even if he deserves it. But what a thing to say to his pious Abba. Nothing is more important. That's why I prayed the whole way home. But I ask again, would you like me to join you? Don't you want to fulfill your obligation to Adonai? As if Seth's faithfulness or prayers could exceed his Abba's. What concerns you? That I won't pray or that I won't be seen praying? Ha! Good answer. I'm concerned for your influence in the village. Seth clenches and unclenches his hand. I believe that other elders should see you at prayers more often. Do you find fault with that? I'd rather you desired fellowship with me, but I appreciate your worry for my reputation. Tonight, however, I wrestle with deeper problems. I prefer that my prayers be uninterrupted by men trying to outdo each other's holiness. Seth's dark eyes flash as I fill his cup. That's how you see our friends? And me? An empty show of holiness? Seth picks at the bread like he's afraid I put worms in the loaf. Look at me, Ezra says. Seth lifts his gaze. I don't judge your intentions or anyone else's. Perhaps I spoke harshly, but it's difficult to focus on prayer when those around you seem to be speaking to their neighbors instead of Adonai. Have you never sensed that? Seth eats without responding. He wouldn't dare insult his friends like he does his own Abba. I bite my tongue to keep silent. Judah bounds up. I pour him some wine. Where have you been? Seth asks. Judah throws back his drink. I just put my things in my room. Shalom, Miriam. A refill if you don't mind. What long, bumpy roads. Flashing his toothy smile, he pops an olive in his mouth. I glance at Master, who nods, and I fill it halfway. How would you know? Seth's voice rumbles. You drank so much in Sepphoris, you slept the entire way home. It did seem a short trip. Judah roars with laughter. You're not washing before you partake? Or is that another law you plan on ignoring? Look, Judah hiccups. Tova's here to wash away the stench of my sins. But what concerns you more, my feet or my soul? Both, equally. Your brotherly affection is more than I can bear. Seth jumps to his feet, his stool toppling. It'd be best if you couldn't bear the shame you bring on our family and your soul. Judah lunges toward Seth, almost knocking Tova over. It'd be best if you'd mind your own soul and leave mine alone. Bang. Ezra's fist pounds the table. Enough! His voice, hard as granite, fills the courtyard as he jumps to his feet. Mouths agape, both boys stare at their father, and I ask Adonai to dissolve whatever retorts sit on their forked tongues. Ezra rarely gets angry, but when he does, it cannot and should not be ignored. Tova grabs the basin and towel and scurries out as Ezra turns to his oldest. Seth, replacing mercy with condemnation, brings only shame. Throwing his bread on the table, Seth turns away. Ezra moves towards Judah. Foolish and sinful behavior like drunkenness stains your heart more than the dust of 1,000 miles dirties your body. Judah's face flushes and he can't hold Ezra's gaze. And we all disgrace our family when we attack each other. The enemy celebrates when we welcome division, rancor, and selfishness like old friends. Seth stiffens. Judah slumps onto his stool. As Ezra's shoulders sag, an abnormal quiet envelops the courtyard. A few of the servants linger near the arbor, trying to hear what isn't their business. I shoot them a warning look, and they scurry away. The lines in Ezra's face deepen. You each have a decision to make. What kind of brother will you be? You can either build on the foundation I've laid or tear us apart. Your bickering grieves me and dishonors Adonai. Your brother's sins don't justify your own. One day you will answer for your actions. Are you prepared? Seth plops on a stool, flicking breadcrumbs off the table. Judah stares at his feet. If only I could force those 4 blocked ears to open and 2 hard hearts to soften. The rage and rejection you hurl at each other hurts everyone around you. Still, no response, and breaks my heart. Tears well in my eyes. This valiant, loving man deserves sons who make his life better. Miriam, he offers a soft smile. Curse my tears. I can't help but share his pain. I'd take it all if I could. Thank you for always taking good care of us. He turns to the boys. After Shabbat, work on the tower resumes. You'll accompany me to the site after morning prayers. He waits until they face him. Peering from one to the other, he places a hand on their heads like when they were children. May Adonai's shalom pervade your sleep and fill the gaps in our hearts tonight. Exhaling, he shuffles to his room, looking older than I've ever seen him. The second he disappears through the doorway, my words burst. How can you hurt your Abba so? You take pride in attacking each other when you should feel shame and disgrace. Drawing a deep breath, I gather Ezra's half-full goblet and barely touched bread. I realize I'm not at liberty to speak this way anymore, but my heart is too broken to stay silent. Judah puts his head in his hands. Seth crosses his arms. You're right, Miriam. Seth admits I'm right? Well, that must taste like vinegar. Hope rises. You may not address me in such a way. Judah can decide what he will and won't allow, but you're a servant in our home, and I'm no longer a boy for you to scold. Never forget that again. Judah's head snaps towards me, his mouth agape. A dozen retorts rush from my mind toward my lips, but I allow only one to escape. So long as you don't forget the respect and love you owe your Abba. Nodding, I flee to my kitchen, head held high, but my mind races. So I'm just a servant to boys I practically raised. I can serve them, but no longer speak to them. I've attempted to honor our changing relationship, but now, when I view myself through Seth's eyes, a place deep within shatters. Something irreparable. Once again, I am barren. Swiping uneaten food into a bucket, I stack platters on the wooden counter, but my vision blurs. Sniffing, I seek onto a cushion at the low table, light an oil lamp, bury my face in my arms, and cry. Stop it. There's no time to wallow, I tell myself. Sniffing and dabbing, I gather my errant emotions and try to stand, but I can't. Light enters the dark kitchen when Eli pulls back the coarse brown fabric covering the door. Sitting? You never sit. What's wrong? My husband's questions begin before he makes it through the doorway. What a bother. The last thing I want him to see is my wet face. I force myself up and turn away, wiping my sleeve across my cheeks. Shalom, let me get you wine and bread. Have you washed? Don't you have a better greeting for your old husband? On a clean platter, I place bread and cheese. Isn't refreshment what you need? Your smile and tender greeting are more refreshing. Just when I think he's forgotten how to say sweet things, he goes and says something like that. I try to remain under control, but can't. Miriam? I turn slowly, revealing my tear-stained cheeks. Oh, my dear. Compassion exuding from his deep brown eyes, he opens his arms wide, and I rush in. Nestling into his shoulder, I find my resting spot, the one place I'm taken care of in a life of taking care of others. His gray beard tickles my cheek, and I place my hand on the brown and green striped tunic. Seth and Judah? I nod. I fear you adopt their sorrows as your own. You? Fear? That makes me chuckle. Why would you fear about me? If they end up destroying each other, I don't want you in the middle. Their division dividing you. I still need you, Miriam. His hand rubs my back. When's the last time he told me that? While never cruel or unloving, he rarely expresses his emotions. Hearing him now feels like a balm. Running my finger along the lines of his face, I reach his coarse beard. I'm grateful you still need me after all these years. He kisses my forehead, releases me, and reclines on a cushion. Open mouth, I give him my "what are you doing" face. I can sit a few minutes. It will test how the younger servants work without supervision. Now tell me what's wrong. You couldn't have missed the argument. I hand him a bowl of dates. Yes, I heard it. But what was worse than the ones before? I repeat Seth's words to me, and the ridiculous tears return. I know I shouldn't have said anything, but after his cold speech and easy dismissal, I'm not his Ema, but my words hang in the air. Disappointment at never having children of our own dwells eternally with us, dulled over the years, but never gone. You've acted like one since their Ema died. They're men now. They no longer need nor want my input. But when he told me not to forget I'm his servant, I realized our past is just that, the past. Stuffing bread and cheese into his mouth, Eli nods. I don't mind being Seth's servant, and I'm proud of our life, but his coldness provides a glimpse of our future with him as the master. I sit opposite Eli, grasp his hand, and whisper, I'm sorry I could never give us sons. Tears drip from my cheeks into our interlaced fingers. Miriam, where is this coming from? We settled this long ago. Adonai knows what's best. We trust him with what he has and hasn't given us, including children. He lifts my chin, and I stare into his gentle gray eyes. Miriam. Oh, sorry. Judah halts as quickly as he enters, coughing uneasily. When I jump up, the dates spill. We shouldn't be seen touching each other, and here Judah finds us with our hands and emotions tightly woven. I didn't know you two were in here. Rubbing the back of his neck, Judah grinned sheepishly. I didn't mean to interrupt anything. My mouth opens and closes, but nothing comes out. I'm not sure where I stand with him. Miriam, silent, Judah laughs. When does that happen? Rarely in my lifetime. Eli sips his wine. Or in mine, Judah snorts. Hands on hips, I glare from one to the other. Eli winks. My young master clasps his hands and bows his head. I came to tell you that, while I don't always like what you have to say to me, I'm still glad you say it. I may be flawed, but at least I'm not a stiff, prideful donkey. Bowing, he continues with mock gravity. I am yours to correct. I resist hugging him. That's a big job. What if I take you up on it? Well, I didn't say I'd listen. He plants a kiss on my cheek and bolts from the room. Oh, no. More tears. Have I ever cried 4 times in a single hour? Well, I sniff. Well, Eli echoes, stretching his back with a groan. Why they prefer anything over their honorable father, I don't understand. Staying with Ezra was the best choice we ever made. I agree. I retrieve the dates from the floor. Was Judah as drunk as Seth claimed? Rubbing his forehead, he says, he's a puzzle. Foolish and pleasure-seeking on one hand, gentle and kind on the other. There's a good man in there somewhere, but he seems determined to never let him out. And Sepphoris, I saw him talking with a merchant I don't trust. Something happened while they were together, something that changed Judah. He's been so sullen lately, but after meeting with Mioclis, he seems carefree. Why? I wanted to get home as quickly as possible. Whenever my restrained husband gives a long speech, I know he's troubled. So now we worry because he's happy? Do you fear that tonight's disaster could get worse? Worse? Miriam, he takes my hand. I don't know how, but I'm afraid it could get much worse. With that, he departs, leaving me alone to worry away the evening.
That's a great scene. Very good.
It was longer than I realized. I got worried I was reading too long, but
No,
I didn't know where to stop.
I think
We're
we
going
all
to
love
get
story.
you and pull the author off stage when
Yeah.
you're done.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, awesome. If you are watching the replay of this, the comments will be open through Friday, August 30. Be sure to comment so you can be entered into winning one of the 3 remaining prizes. We're so thankful you're here. We're so thankful for Susan creating this epic story for us to get lost in and joining us here on Biblical Fiction Aficionados today.
Well, thank you, Naomi and Dana. It's such a great place to have a place on the internet for biblical fiction. I was so excited to find this page and check out other things that are out there and find other books. And so thank y'all for hosting, and thank you for even having the page. It's really great, Naomi.
Michelle says you get 200 stars.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. I'll take it.
Woohoo! Rebecca is applauding you, and Demi says thank you. Thank you, ladies, for joining us live, and thank you for those who are watching the replay. I second the 200 stars, and 400 for you, Susan. You are the winner.
I am going to go find chocolate right now.
Rebecca says this has been a great time. We're so glad that you
Thank
joined
you, Rebecca.
us for watching live. If you're watching later, we're so glad that this is meeting a need for you. We love our community, and you guys are amazing. You're great readers. You're great reviewers. Launch teams. We're so thankful for this community on Biblical Fiction Aficionados. Rebecca gives you 200 as well. So apparently you are at a sweep at 600 stars.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you for joining us, Susan. Loving your book. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And we look forward to hearing about Seth's
number 2.
Yeah.
So be sure to
hopefully it won't take 30 years. Since the last one took 30 years, I'm planning on a much shorter timeline on writing this one.
Sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan. So be sure you're commenting. Give Susan some love on Facebook. We're so thankful she's able to join us. Connect with her on her website. Rebecca says, thank you so much to all of you for writing such beautiful stories for us. Thank you, Rebecca. You are amazing as a reader, as a launch team.
Yes, she is.
Superpower woman. We're so thankful for. We couldn't. I mean, really, if we didn't have readers, we wouldn't have any writing to do either. So, 600 stars for all of you ladies here. You win too. So thank you for joining us. Be sure to comment that you can get into the draw for one of Finding Home. And we're happy to continue to bring these fabulous authors and books here to Biblical Fiction Aficionados Live. And we'll see you guys around on the internet.
All right. Bye-bye.